What's up, lads? Welcome back to Gladiatorstribe. My name is Grisha and we're back with the yearly top 5 best rackets for Topspin 2025 edition. This top will only include rackets that were made to create so much topspin and rip the ball to a point where your opponents have to jump to even reach to your shots. I always like to do these videos closer to the end of the year to sum up all of the releases of the year, and also for you glads to take advantage of the winter November-ish Black Friday sales that are usually happening in pretty much everywhere closer to the end of the year. And all of the rackets mentioned in this videos are going to be linked down in the description below. So if you want to get a gift for yourself for this holiday season or for your loved ones, the links are going to be down in the description together with our exclusive discount code. One quick disclaimer before we get to the top. All of the rackets included in this top 5 are rackets that I've already reviewed on my channel. So if there's some racket that you think is a good racket for topspin that is not on this top 5, it might be because I haven't reviewed it. But it's very unlikely because I've reviewed pretty much 90% of the rackets available on the market. But yeah, if you want the full-on reviews of the rackets mentioned, they're also going to be linked in the description. But without further ado, let's get started. All right, so let's get started with racket number 5. By the way, all of the rackets are in this sexy RF bag, which I'm absolutely loving, by the way. I bought it last year and I'm a huge fan. But anyways, it's the Wilson Clash 100. So the Wilson Clash series, and especially the 100 version, is a racket that somehow is overhyped, but also underhyped at the same time. Because it's very popular amongst the players who play at a club level, you know, just on a weekend basis with their friends just to have some fun, because it's a very easy racket to get into and it's a very comfortable racket with a very low stiffness rating that's not gonna hurt your elbows, joints, and injure you. But for some reason, it's completely disregarded by the slightly more advanced players, even though this is a very capable racket, especially in the topspin department. I wouldn't say that it's the racket that has the most potential for topspin because, I mean, it's number 5, not number 1, but in its class, it's definitely the best one. And not only is it capable of topspinning the ball really well, it's also super comfortable. It produces enough power and it does all of that without damaging you and injuring you, which is something that you might not really care about, but some people out there with, you know, tennis elbows and other injuries might really appreciate. And keep in mind that this is the V3 version of the Wilson Clash 100. The V2 is not as good. I think they've made a huge improvement coming from V2 to V3, even though V1, in my opinion, was a better racket than the V2. But this is the perfected one. This is my favorite one out of them all, and it takes the number 5 spot very solidly and very deserveful. I don't know if those words even exist, but anyways, racket number 4. I really hope that you can't sneak peek through the bag, but yeah, anyways, racket number 4. And racket number 4 is actually not the racket that is number 4 in this top 5 because I couldn't find a Yonex Vcore 100. So this is a Yonex, and that's all it has in common with the actual racket that I wanted to put here. The Yonex Vcore 100. This is the Yonex EZO 98. I'm sorry, guys. I sometimes can't get the hang of the rackets that I need for these tops, but imagine that it's kind of all reddish and with a bigger head size, okay? So the Vcore, I'm just gonna put it here to not create any confusion, but the Vcore 100 has made this top. I think this is the 3rd year in a row that it's making this top because it's a racket that's known for spinning the ball really well. This is the most top spinny racket in the Yonex range, and it comes with all of the perks that all of the Yonex rackets come with, including the huge, absolutely massive sweet spot, the very comfortable feel on impact with the ball, and the stability that has been absolutely unmatched until 2025 in the 100-inch power and spin oriented rackets department. And I'm saying unmatched until 2025 because Wilson Head and Technifiber have all released rackets that are now very comparable to that stability, whereas this used to be way ahead of the competition. This doesn't mean that it became worse, it's still a very good racket that I definitely recommend if you're looking for a powerful and spin oriented racket, but I'm just saying that, you know, now it has a little bit more competition on the market. And I think it's enough info for this Vcore painted as an E-zone frame. If you want to see more information and a more detailed review of the racket, take a look at the description. There's the review right there. But we are moving on to racket number 3, the bronze medalist. And yeah, this spot is actually a confusing one because I haven't really decided. But anyways, so the racket number 3 is the Head Extreme MP. And here's what's up with it. The reason why I haven't decided about the top 3, because if I was picking a racket for the most top spin, and that's the only thing I actually cared about, I would go for the Head Extreme MP, because it does spin the ball really freaking well. It's what it says here, extreme spin big. But if I were on the market for a spin-oriented racket with a lot of power, but I was also not minding at least a little bit of stability and control, I would go for a different, also head racket, but a different head racket. And it is the Head Speed MP, and I got it in the Legend paint job because, you know, what else? This is the latest Head Speed MP Legend with this very sexy carbon fiber insert that I absolutely love over here. If I were choosing between the two, I would definitely go for the Speed MP, because with the new high bar technology that they've implemented in the Speed MP rackets, it has become more stable without losing the power, the spin, and the feel of the racket is way better as well. So in general, between the two rackets, I feel like the Speed MP is the better one. So if I were picking between the two, I would go for the Head Speed MP, because I think it's just a more complete racket, but the Extreme MP definitely spins the ball way more, and it's a more powerful racket. And in terms of paint job, I think Head have been doing an absolutely amazing job, because I mean, look at these things. They're so good looking. I just can't get over it. Head have been, I think recently, the best in terms of design, paint jobs, and everything. And I'll leave these two up here just for you to have that in mind. More spin, and that's the only thing you care about, go for the Extreme. You want a little bit of control, a little bit more stability, a little bit of feel, a little bit more of a complete racket, go for the Speed MP. But we are moving on to racket number 2. And glad the racket that usually takes the number 1 spot is actually number 2 this time. And you probably guessed it, or you might have seen it, I hope you didn't. The Babolat Pure Aero 100. This is the racket that usually takes the number 1 spot, because it's basically made for spinning the ball. But in the recent years, with the 2024, I think, or 2023 version of the Pure Aero, they went to direction of making the racket a little bit less powerful, less spinny, but adding a little bit more control and feel, which is something that I absolutely love. And if it was for me and I had to pick between the number 2 and the number 1, I'd go for the number 2, the Babolat Pure Aero, because it's more controlled and more feel oriented and a little bit more stable. However, since this is a top 5 best rackets for topspin, it's gonna be on number 2. But I mean, this is a Babolat Pure Aero, it needs no introduction. It's a racket that's been so popular over the years. With the introduction of the 98 version, it has become even more popular, and with this new design, I'm definitely digging it way more than the previous one. It's just a really good racket, period. And by the way, no matter which one of these rackets you pick, you're not gonna be disappointed. You'll get a little bit more power there, a little bit more spin there, but all of the rackets here are good. Except for maybe the Extreme MP, because it's very extreme in the spin and the power department, and it's just compromising a lot on the other things, which is not something I'm a fan of, but you might enjoy. But yeah, all of the other rackets are pretty much safe picks. So yeah, this goes right here. Whoops. And we are moving on to the winner and the number 1 racket for topspin of 2025. And give me a little transition. So the number 1, the golden medalist and the best racket for topspin of 2025 that actually came out in 2025. I think it's the newest out of all of these rackets. Maybe the Speed MP is the newer one, but anyways, it is the Wilson Ultra V5 in this very beautiful paint job. The Wilson Ultra V5 was one of the rackets that surprised me the most in 2025. And I keep saying that the Wilson Ultra V3 was an absolute trash racket that I hated and said a lot of bad things about, and it was absolutely unusable and I didn't understand the purpose of it. They've improved it a lot with the V4 and the sexy paint job, and they've improved it even more, actually improved it even more with the V5. I might be leaning more towards the paint job of the V4, but in terms of racket as a racket, this is the better one. When I said that Wilson have released rackets that are comparable to the stability and the feel of the Yonex Vcore 100, I was talking about this racket right here. And I've actually made a comparison between the E-Zone 100 and the Ultra V5, where they were literally head to head. If you want to see that video, check it out up over here. But yeah, it's just a racket that does everything well to do with spin and power. And spin and power usually come together because the rackets that are made for spin are usually very powerful ones and vice versa. But what I really like about the Wilson Ultra V5 is that apart from that, it also doesn't compromise so much on stability and on the feel and on the penetration through the ball. And it's a racket, a very powerful and spinny racket that I'm able to play with, just like the Vcore 100 and the Speed MP, which is a racket that was released in 2025 and can also compare to the Vcore 100 and all of the Yonex rackets in terms of stability and feel. But yeah, the Wilson Ultra V5 was a huge surprise for me, a huge pleasant surprise for me, and it's definitely the racket that I would recommend if you're looking for the most topspin and a huge amount of power. If I had to pick a racket out of all of these 5, I mean technically 6 rackets for myself, if you want to know my opinion for some reason, I don't know, I would definitely go with the Headspeed Legend because it's just the most complete racket and it's also very sexy, and it's the racket that I loved playing with the most for my style of play. However, as I've already said, my style of play is not exactly topspin and power oriented, so take my opinion as a consideration and keep it in mind, but don't think that because I would choose this racket, this is the best racket out of all these. These are all great rackets, and as I said, you will not go wrong with any of these, and you will definitely enjoy your time with them. But when you're making the final choice, just try to boil down what exactly you want in a racket apart from spin and power, because spin and power is something that all of these rackets can offer. If that's all you want, go for the Extreme. If you want a little bit more stability, maybe a little bit more feel and control, go for the Vcore or the Speed MP. If you want a very comfortable racket that's not going to injure you, go for the Clash. But if you want the most spin that keeps that golden standard without compromising all of the other aspects of the racket, such as control, stability, and feel, go for one of these two. But that's it for me for today. I really hope that you've enjoyed this top 5 best rackets for topspin. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know if you agree with it, if you change the spots, or if you'd pick completely different rackets. Don't forget that all of the detailed and more specific reviews of every single one of these rackets are down in the description below, together with the links to buy them. And yeah, I do really recommend that you do it somewhere about right now, because all of the discounts and all of the sales are going on the Tennis Warehouse websites. But yeah, like always, my name is Grisha, you're watching Gladiatorstribe, and I will see you glads in the next one. Bye-bye.